Train ride that hopes to thrill you a little and chill you a little. Patience as we pull into Death Station.
Well, hello. This is the Horror Express, and I am your conductor. I would like to take a moment and remind you not to wander the train. We recently added some new passengers, and, well, they haven't acclimated just yet. In fact, they're downright ornery and unpredictable. On today's train ride, Jason and Ron will be talking about UFOs. Also, we'll have a special visit from friend to the show, David Larsen. I will tell you a story that sends shivers down my spine. That is, if my neural pathways still worked. But that's another story. Now move along. Jason and Ron will join you in Car 13 in a moment. If they can.
Jason, it is so good to be back on the train, and I, for one, am surprised I can even say that, but it's good to see you, my friend.
It is. I know it's been a little while, but we got our act together. We did it, so it's fun. I love being here with you guys.
Even if we weren't being listened to, I enjoy talking with you, so...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Me too.
I just want you to know that I have missed our conversations.
Oh, me too.
Well, so I think we owe them a little of update. Let's start with health. For me, my sciatica is back in remission. I'm back to exercising and walking. I'm up to about 3 miles a day again. I'm back full at work, and I'm quite happy to be so.
Well, I never really took off of work. I dealt with it anyways, but I've been having some MS flare-ups, of course. But in January, I fell and had a really bad concussion. My wife, as everybody knows, had a stroke. And so she had an exercise bar that was put on some PVC pipe, and we had it next to the chair. And that pipe was sticking out of the magazine rack. Well, when I slipped, that piece of PVC caught me just about 1/4 of an inch from being into the soft part of my head and my neck, where my head and my neck come together. Oh. And it created a huge bloody mess. Then on top, after I hit that, then my head hit the magazine rack, then it hit the concrete floor. So I don't know much of any of that, but I do know that I woke up somehow, I cleaned myself up, and I went to work. And I don't remember much of anything besides that. I came home and I saw the blood on the pipe, I saw the blood on the floor, so I kind of know what happened. But my memory just still hasn't been jogged yet too much, and I'm still having lapses of that. It also set my MS flaring up because a part of that is nerves. You know, your MS is nerves, and your central nervous system is run by your brain. So, of course, a lot of fun.
I think maybe you should have taken some time off from work.
Yeah.
Well, but you are feeling better now, and things are returning to normal.
Yeah, I'm slowly coming back, and, the more I talk, the more I think, the more I rest, the better off it's getting.
Well, that's great.
Well, the good thing is I don't remember most of it.
That's true. There's always a bright side, right?
Yeah. Wasn't that on Monty Python? Always look at the bright side of life?
Yeah, and when they're dying on the cross there, yeah, that's...
Yes.
That is a humorous moment. I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that movie, but there are some funny bits in that one. All right, Jason. Well, we also kind of have to update on the whole doll situation. Is there any update on our Pinocchio doll? Anything new that you can tell us since the last podcast?
Well, I have been monitoring it. Nothing's happened, so I can't give any major updates. I have not been able to catch anything other than what I did catch. And that's a positive. It just means it may not be haunted at all. But I'm still monitoring it, keeping my eye on it. So thank goodness nothing's happened, but I kind of deep down wanted something to happen because I wanted to see it, but it's okay.
Well, Jason, I had a chance to sit down with David Larsen, the original owner of the doll. I was curious what life was like post-doll, and I got an interview with him. Do you mind if I play it right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, well, I sat down with him a little while ago, and this is what he has to say about the whole situation. Well, I'm proud to say that we have our first listener guest on the show, and I'm here talking with the owner of the Pinocchio doll. I'm happy to introduce David Larsen, and he's from Utah.
Hey, Ron.
My excitement in having you on the show is pretty high because people now know that you're a real person. So, David, are you a real person?
I'm living here in Utah.
Whereabouts in Utah do you live?
I live northern Utah, in between Ogden and Salt Lake.
So, are you a Jazz fan?
I actually don't watch much sports ball.
Oh, you don't? I was going to berate you because my Portland Trailblazers handed your guys quite the loss a couple weeks ago. So.
a lot of the fellows at work have been talking about that.
But I guess the first thing I want to ask you about is, what was your reaction to the podcast? And I know that you and your wife listened to it together. What did you guys think?
I thought it was awesome. I was blown away with how you guys were able to help me with it, and the fact that we even found anything with it. I was so worried that it was just going to be nothing, that is all in my head, and it was really relieving to hear what Jason found. When I was listening to it, it kind of made me think for a minute, and then I wasn't concerned. I wasn't afraid about it. It made me feel like I had more of an understanding about the whole thing.
When you were experiencing those dreams, I guess I can't imagine how terrifying that must have been for you, because to have something that you own end up in a dream just terrifying you. It just blows my mind. What was that like? I mean, having the doll, I think, when we had talked before, you had said that you had actually wrapped the doll up in rope and tied it up. Was that because you were hoping that it would stay in the box?
Yeah. So what happened was, shortly after I got the box, we got a shipment in from Afghanistan. My uncle sent it to us, and we were unwrapping our presents. We were all really excited, but for whatever reason, I felt more nervous when we were opening the presents. So my dad got a crooked dagger, had a horse head for the pommel. So he still has it. So my little sister got this beautiful little doll in a dress, and I got the Pinocchio, like the listeners have seen. When I touched it, I got this weird shiver. I just remember picking it up and then being like, "Oh, yeah, so happy I got this," because my aunt was at the house when we got it. And then shortly after, I put it back in the box and put it in my closet and forgot about it till the 5th grade. And then for whatever reason, when I went to go pick it up, so if I went to go look at it again, for just something like called to me about it. And so I opened the box, and I got this really, really odd feeling, and I just got scared. And throughout those years, I did have the night terrors, but after I opened the box, the doll just gave me a weird feeling, so I wrapped it up, a blanket that my grandmother crocheted for me, and I tossed it in the box, tied that box up with a whole bunch of rope, and put a lock on the rope. I was in 5th grade. I didn't realize if it would actually lock it in place or not. But then I tossed it in the bottom of my closet, and I forgot about it until I moved it to the garage.
Kind of the rest is history. Was there anything about the show that you wanted to talk about? Anything that Jason said?
Actually, yeah, when he mentioned the mold, it's kind of crazy to me, because when my wife and I picked it up from my dad's place, we grabbed the box, still all tied up and everything. We pulled it out, and it didn't stink at all. So it was just a box covered in dirt that had been sitting for 10 years. And so when we pulled it out, it had that rope all the way wrapped around it. And my wife said that we probably shouldn't walk through the post office with the box all tied up with rope. So I agreed. So we ended up cutting that off and tossing it in the only box I could find that would hold it. And it turned out to be about half again the size that it actually needed to be. We'd toss it in there and sent it out 5 minutes before the post office closed, and I was so relieved to get rid of it.
Yeah, I can imagine. How did you feel about Jason's findings? What did that do to you?
I remember sitting there listening to it. My wife wouldn't let me listen to it without her there, and we were sitting there, and it's like nothing happened. We're like, okay, okay. And then the EVPs came, and when he said, "But wait, there's a twist," so I was like, "Oh, okay. What's going on?" And he brought up the EVPs, and when I listened to those, all the hairs on my body just stuck up on end. And I do agree that what the EVPs say, like what he was thinking, the good to find, not really, and thanks. I thought that was like when I heard that, and even now when I'm talking about it, my hairs are sticking up on my arms.
Well, mine too, when he told me.
But it was kind of cool, because I didn't feel scared anymore about it. I don't feel scared about it anymore. I still don't want it. Jason can have it and throw it in any pictures he wants. But I don't feel scared about it anymore, and I felt almost relieved that when it said thanks, when I heard the recording that said thanks, it almost felt like it was happy to be out of the box, is happy to be someplace where it was loved instead of just tossed aside.
Wow, that's nothing.
I know. I felt happy about that.
That's something I hadn't thought about in all of this, because one of the things Jason has told me is that that he's had since that night, the doll has been just completely quiet. That thing might be at peace now. Yeah. That's a good thought. Wow, that's deep.
When I heard that, I felt really happy, and I definitely don't want it. It's his. I know he says it's mine, but I'm more than happy to bequeath that upon him.
I guess I have just one question. What would you say to someone that has a similar problem to what you have had today? What would you say they should do?
I always thought I was crazy. I always thought that, there's nothing to this. There have been times when my parents have said that I'm more sensitive to these kind of things. Even if people tell you those things, even if people have said that they believe in what you're saying, you're going to have that voice in the back of your mind that says, well, it's really crazy. That is way outside the norm. I don't even know if this is real. Even if you do that, speak out. Try to get help. I was so lucky that you guys were able to help me. Even if nothing became of it, you have a bit of closure. So, and that's one thing I'm so thankful for from you and Jason, that I'm so happy that it's no longer eating away at the back of my mind. Honestly, I haven't thought about it at all until I go and listen to the podcast. The Horror Express is like, oh hey, maybe I could go listen to that again real quick. I'm so grateful for you guys.
Well, you're very welcome, and I just want to say thank you to you, David, for number one, having the courage to share your story. Number two, sharing it with us. And I know that Jason wants me to tell you that he appreciates the experience as well, because for him to help someone is a really big deal. And if you knew Jason, you knew what I mean by that. He absolutely is in the business of helping people.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Well, David, I'm going to say thank you one last time, and I'm going to give you the last word. I'm really thankful for you guys, everything you guys done.
I was so afraid that nothing was going to come of this, and the fact that something did, and that we were able to make a podcast out of it is just awesome. But just the fact that I was able to reach out and get some help, and you guys were so nice and so generous, and it really made me feel like all those fears from before were just a little bit validated. That even if it was nothing, that somebody's there that will listen. That's a complete stranger that's just there to help. And it's so it's so mind-boggling that people were actually, that willing to help, and that they're not just going to call you crazy and toss you off to the side. Just thank you guys.
So you see, Jason, even if the doll is not haunted, it certainly had an impact on David. And I think that for no other reason, you gave the guy some peace.
And, sometimes that's all we can do. I mean, like I said, I was kind of hoping it would have some type of haunting with it, but yet it's a relief that so far I haven't caught anything. Because, I mean, that can be a very terrible situation. Some things you just don't want to always mess with because you don't know how it's going to react or if you can get rid of it. I mean, you don't really want to mess around with the paranormal if you don't have to. So I'm kind of relieved, but yet in my heart I kind of wanted something to happen.
Yeah, me too, if I'm being honest. And I think that David would have loved for you to find more than you did. But I think
Sure.
the evidence that you did collect, you got an EVP, you got some strange readings when you took away the little voodoo doll. And and I had some thoughts on this. What if somebody did do something to protect David during that time, and the result of it was that Pinocchio was washed clean? Is that a possibility?
It's absolutely a possibility.
Because, he had hauntings, there nightmares, and all of that just stopped.
Yeah.
According
it
to
sure
him.
did.
So, I don't know, but I'm sure glad we had that experience, and I'm sure glad that we were able to share it with you guys.
Yeah. I was going to say, if anybody else has something else that they want me to look at or something like that, like I said, I'm happy to do it. It's not a burden at all. If I can make somebody feel better, I'd love to be able to do that.
Well said. Well, Jason, we have a topic that I have been looking forward to for quite some time. We are going to cover the subject of UFOs.
Yes.
Specifically, we're going to take a look at some stories, and you're going to share some stuff about some recent findings in Peru.
That's right.
I have done some research, and here's what I found out about the United Farmers of Ontario.
United Farmers of Ontario?
Yeah, UFOs.
Oh, yeah, there's that brain thing going on. Woo! Airhead.
Wait a minute. What did you think I meant? We're going to talk about the United Farmers of Ontario. It's a group that have been around for...
Wait. I thought we were talking about the UFOs that come down, beam people up, and take them away and experiment on them.
Oh, you mean unidentified flying objects?
Yes.
Well, why is that scary?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess those farmers can be pretty hairy people, but I think that being taken away and experimented on by people that you've never seen before and they look really gross, that'd be a little scarier. I don't know, maybe just a little bit.
Oh, so we aren't talking about the United Farmers of Ontario. It's a real thing, documented.
I'm sure they are.
So we're not going to discuss that. We're going to do the other thing.
Yes.
Good thing I found out some information about that, too.
Oh, that's good. Where'd you find out?
Well, UFOs actually does stand for unidentified flying objects, and the whole phenomenon actually became an issue in the 1940s, is something that people were looking at, something that even the government admits that they were looking at. Today, boy, it is just a household word. I mean, everybody has got a UFO story, it seems. It seems like wherever you go, you can hear somebody say, yeah, that happened to me, or I saw this, or things like that. Now, what I did was I found 3 stories that I think represent the types of UFO stories that we're gathering today.
Yeah, I guess we could start there, and then we can kind of finish out how the story that kind of sparked this whole thing.
Now, what I did was I went to MUFON. MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. It's a group of people, nonprofit that got together and said, hey, let's start tracking some cases. So here's some actual cases, and they're really short. They're not long at all. This is case number 82724. A witness first noticed a flashing in the sky on March 16th, 2017. It was dark, but I could see something approaching the top of my street, the witness stated. I know it sounds crazy, but I was watching from my back garden and it was very dark. I saw red lights, and the next thing there was this huge craft in the sky between two rooftops of the houses at the top of my street. The witness described the object. It dipped its front end down and had red lights and windows all the way around it. It hovered for a short time. I looked away for a split second, and it was going away again. I got a video, but you can't see a thing. I took some screenshots of the video and filtered it a bit, and although it's not clear, you can definitely see that there's something in the sky that didn't belong there. The next day, I took some photos from the same place as a reference. And then he goes on to say that he submitted all the photos to MUFON. The investigator, David Whitehouse, closed the case as an unknown UAV. And they said that's 90% of the types of cases they get. Story number 2 comes from California, Santa Rosa. A man watched a bright ball of light that ejected 2 objects, and the case number is 82613, also from MUFON. As we were skating around the blacktop, a very bright light caught my attention, the witness stated. At first, I thought it was Venus being magnified by the atmosphere, as it was too low on the horizon, and it was obviously not moving. After a minute of me continuing to skate, I looked again and realized that it was in the same place that it was. Then it became obvious that it was moving. The witness described the object. It had no blinking lights and was much, much brighter than a plane or helicopter, with no sound whatsoever. I brought my other 2 friends' attention to the object, and then it began to slowly move across the sky and then moved out of our view. On a side note, the witness felt that he was somehow communicating with the object. This happened within seconds of me asking in my mind for the object to do something or to make it even more obvious of its worldly origin. In other words, he asked it to move, and it moved. Whether that is a coincidence or not, who can say? But he felt like he said, move, and the thing moved.
Interesting.
Yep. Story 3 is a little bit longer, but not too. This is a story sent in by the listeners. It starts out, hello, Ron. Thank you for the show and reading my story on the air. I listen to the podcast every week, and I love it. In fact, my whole family listens to you. I work for the APS Group, which provides electrical power for over 1 million people. I am what would be called a lineman and drive the desert regions of the state a lot. This happened to me in a June night in 1995. I was sent out on an inspection tour. This was a dream job and very coveted because you drive a line checking substations and recording values. Today, this job is all computerized and we're sent to a station only when it reports an error. I was driving between the stations when I saw a flash of light. It was lightning, actual bolts spraying out from a low, isolated storm. I'd never seen lightning like it before. I stared in awe. It looked like jewelry, some kind of tiara on top of a mountain. I never knew that 4 a.m. could be so beautiful. I never knew it could be so terrifying. I drove closer to the storms in hopes of capturing some pictures. I'm not a photographer, but I always took my camera on these trips because you never know what you're going to see out there. I was within 5 miles of the storm when the van stopped. I don't mean turned off and rolled to a stop. I mean it just stopped. I was wearing a seatbelt, so no harm done, but I thought for sure I'd hit something. I grabbed for my radio to report in, but all I could hear was static. I got out of the car and looked in the front of the van. No damage and no barrier of any kind. I looked out at the storm, and that's my last memory. The next thing I remember was being back in the van, driving to the next substation. I glanced at my watch, and it was 5 a.m. Almost an hour had passed. The story does not end there. Several weeks later, I took the roll of film that was in my camera to be developed. There were these perfect pictures of the lightning storm. I don't remember taking these pictures. Also, the quality of the photos were far better than my skills would allow. Lucky shots, maybe, but why don't I remember them? Jason from Carefree, Arizona.
Wow.
Another Jason. So those are the 3 stories I bring to the table. I bring them because they, one is your typical something floating out in the sky. The second one is just bright lights in the sky, and the third one is lost time. And those are your typical alien-type UFO stories. So, Jason, I'm going to let you talk a little bit now. What do you think?
Well, those are pretty interesting stories. I mean, I kind of had a similar experience with a unidentified flying object, but the problem with it is that where I was, I really can't say that that's exactly what I saw. I was in Virginia. We were going back north I was going to go home to Connecticut, and we were passing just south of Washington. Now, Washington, D.C. Now, everybody knows that's one of the biggest bases in the country are out there. So it's very possible that they were trying something that maybe I didn't know existed. But basically what it was is this thing came out of nowhere. It was illuminated, sat there for a few seconds, and then just shot off in the sky and disappeared. Faster than I could even imagine an object could move. And I don't know what that was. I mean, I didn't have any lost time. I didn't have anything like that. I didn't even feel weird, but I do know that, again, there was something floating in the sky. So I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And but I can't rule out that it wasn't some type of aircraft firefighter. I just can't because of where I was.
So I guess a nice question to ask ourselves is, do we believe in aliens? And so I'm going to start. I'm going to answer that question first.
Okay.
And I'm going to say, yeah, I do. And my reasoning is the universe.
Why the universe?
Well, Jason, it's a really big place.
Really?
Have you looked out there? And I would think in Florida you guys would have a nice view of the universe.
Well, we kind of do. I mean, we can see. It depends. I mean, Florida gets kind of clogged up, but yeah, you can see pretty far out there if you really look hard enough.
Well, my point is there's a lot of space out there, and it sure would be a whole lot of wasted space if everything was for us.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I personally think that there are, at least there's no doubt in my mind that there has to be some intelligent creatures out there. Why wouldn't they be more intelligent than us, or maybe not as intelligent as us? Either way, it's a win-win. We're not alone. There's no way we're alone.
But think about, too, I mean, look at the oceans. We're finding new things every single solitary day that we didn't know exist. So there's a good possibility that there are mermaids out there. There are possibilities there are some other creatures out there that are like alien life forms just in our own ocean. So why couldn't there be something outside in the many heavens are out there that we don't even know if it ever ends?
And that's very true. You also add to the fact that the number of sightings per year continue to climb. Now, let's talk about the world's population. What happens to the world's population every year?
It usually grows at least a little bit.
It is also in the increase. So therefore, our world is getting smaller, is it not?
It is.
And so therefore, we're going to find things that weren't there before because we're pushing out our boundaries and moving into locations that we hadn't been previously. So to say that we found everything on our Earth is ridiculous.
That's right.
So to say that there's nothing out in the universe, even more ridiculous.
That is true.
It's interesting to me that since the 80s, the number of UFO sightings has increased almost exponentially to where I think so far in 2018, there's something like 300 and some odd sightings. And there was some 3,000 sightings in 2017. That's a whole lot of things that people can't explain.
That's true.
A lot of people say, well, now everybody and their brother owns drones. Well, that's certainly very true. But I'm talking about the unidentified variety. I'm not talking about some guy flying his drone and investigating the third floor of a apartment building.
Yeah. Where the woman happens to have a bathroom at,
Yeah, just with open curtains. It's
Right.
ridiculous, but those are definitely, I would call them very identified flying objects. And
Sure.
and even with our technology now, it's getting harder and harder to hide in our skies. And I think that we're going to come to a time here, not too distant future, where nothing is going to be able to hide in our skies, and we will know that there are some people out there flying around. Now, whether there are us from the future, or whether they're aliens, or creatures that fly around that look like ships, who cares?
Yeah.
I think that this will eventually be solved.
I think so too, and I really think that we have a lot more information about these things that our government's not telling us, which I can't understand why they wouldn't tell us. I mean, it's not like we can really do anything about it, so it's not like we can run away and create a big problem. We can't go anywhere. We're stuck with it, but at least we could face it one-on-one. We would have the facts. We know what's going on. So I think once that information will be unclassified, which I think isn't in the too distant future, that we will have a lot more answers as well. I think our government knows either which way what it is, but they're just not saying it. I really don't like that.
In the ranks of UFO sightings, there's been some government-released information as of late. And one of them is that particular, I don't know if you saw it, but there's a video out there of a jet on a normal routine, and they came across some things that they couldn't explain, and they have actually decent pictures of it. And the government released this quite recently. And, and if I were the government and I wanted to break it to us gently, if I already knew that there were aliens, I would start with something like this and say, here, look at this. And then slowly introduce more things. Maybe that's what they're planning on doing, is just, they're afraid that if we knew the truth, it would ruin our society. And we would be back to beating each other over the head with clubs again.
Yeah.
It's just we couldn't take the news. And I think we can.
Right.
It's possible, I believe, to be a Christian and still believe in aliens.
Sure.
And now, if I'm correct, Jason, you're going to tell us about some aliens that they're having trouble explaining away.
Right. This is really what started this whole idea about doing aliens this time. I was going through Facebook and I saw, I take everything on Facebook with a grain of salt, but going through my feed, and sure enough, there was a feed about them finding what looks like alien bodies in a Mayan pyramid that they decided to go in and excavate. It took them a long time to even get to this point on this pyramid. So, but it's buried with, the priest or the high empress or whatever they may have been called back then. And it's really interesting that they basically mummified it. Now, I don't know if it's they mummified it or it was just time with the conditions that helped mummify it. But supposedly these things have it's almost looked like a snake-like body with a couple of ribs going down it. It's got long arms with long fingers, the typical alien head that you see with the eyes, and it's buried in the same way that you'd seen some of these mummies from that area, the Peruvian area, where they sit like Indian style, not Indian style, but with their knees up, and they wrap their arms around their knees and stuff. So it's really interesting that this particular thing is doing the same type of position that we see these mummies from that era. But I can't truly tell you if that's really an alien or not, because they really haven't come out and said anything. Honestly, with the way that we are able to manipulate photos and stuff like that nowadays, it very easily could be a fake. I'm not going to rule that out, because I don't know anything. I haven't seen any of these things. I haven't seen it in person. But it's quite interesting. And since people have said for a long time, especially with hieroglyphics that have kind of mentioned something like that in Egypt, they're celebrating gods from the sky in the Peruvian Mayan cultures, that to find these things there, it makes it almost plausible that these are there and they are a real thing that these people saw. They just couldn't explain it, so they worship them as gods.
Yeah. Well, there's been some recent information. Now, I'm just going to make sure. Are you talking about the Nazca tombs?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, they got permission and they submitted DNA samples for testing. And the first samples that they tested, they concluded that it was a 100% match to human DNA.
Really?
However, the samples were tainted. They weren't handled properly, and so everybody went wild and said, see, they just mutilated the bodies and made these critters. And I'm actually looking right now on the internet. You can look at these creatures, and you described them very well. The only thing you didn't mention was they had 3 fingers as opposed to 5.
Okay.
But you can see the actual pictures of these mummified things. So they resubmitted the DNA, this time following proper protocols. They resubmitted it again, and now, after the resubmission, only 30% matched human beings. 70% did not.
Really?
They said there's a lot of different things that can account for that, but 70% is a pretty high number that it should share more. Now, the fact that it does have something in common with humans, 30% of it, that's even more interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because how in the world, what is this? What are these things?
Right.
They're continuing research. They're trying to find out if there was some sort of bacterial problem or if there was something that changed the DNA over the years. There's a million answers that they don't have. But to say that they're 100% reptilian? No. They look reptilian. But to say they're 100% human? Nah. Not 100% human either. So there's something in between.
That is interesting, and I like to know how old they are. I mean, could this be a one of those taxidermy things where people put stuff to those gas where they put it together to make it look like it?
Well, actually, they've carbon dated it. Let's see, I have that information. They carbon date between 245 to 410 AD.
Wow.
So we're talking, a few thousand years ago.
Right.
It's very unlikely that we, meaning somebody in our present, had anything to do with these things. Yeah. Now, could they have made them and as some sort of ritual put things together and made it look like this? Certainly. Maybe they could have, but it was done long before any of us were around.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That makes it hard to dispute in many ways.
Well, the fact is, if you're looking at DNA and you compare the lapdog to human, there's some tags that we have in common even with the dog.
Right.
Could it be just another race that just died out and that was the end of them then?
That is possible.
Certainly could have been. That might have been the end of them, and they were the last of a race, and even the Incas, or was it Incas?
Yes.
Yeah. Even the Incas knew that was something special, and there weren't any more of these guys.
There's talks about giant people and everything else that, we've started to find bones with, but they just don't exist anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're not from this planet. I mean, we don't know of everything that's happened throughout all these years,
Yeah, actually, here's a statement that kind of maybe puts it into better perspective than I just did. After all, humans share 50% of their DNA with the banana.
Really?
Yeah. Put that into perspective.
Yeah.
So I love this subject. I believe that the whole UFO and aliens question is one that we've been working on now since we decided that it was an issue, probably late 30s all the way up until today. You know what the interesting thing is? A few weeks ago, on Ron's Amazing Stories, I did a podcast called Old Time UFO. And what I did was I found a program that they took and talked about UFOs from their point of view, 1950. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It was interesting to me.
What's that?
Even with all the technology that we have and all of the stuff that we have created to help us search the cosmos, we don't know any more than we did in 1950.
Yeah, that is funny. It's true, though.
We just don't. If I were an alien and I had technology beyond reason, I suppose it's entirely possible that we would be able to protect ourselves from being found out by us lowly humans.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, Jason. I love this subject. I think we could go on and on. We could talk about it until we're blue in the face. The bottom line is there's a lot of scariness to the subject because it's unknown.
Right.
But how many alien stories out there really have proposed any kind of threat to us at all?
I haven't seen the Will Smith version of it where they come and blow up the entire Earth yet. So, I think we're going to be okay.
Well, and if we're not, what would we do about it? I mean, there's nothing to do except conjecture as to what we think it might be.
Right.
Jason, so bottom line for you, UFOs, aliens, what do you think?
I believe it's plausible. I haven't seen one to say for sure. That doesn't mean they don't exist. So yes, there is a possibility that they do exist, and I believe that they same ability to exist as an actual ghost does.
Okay. I say more than plausible. I think that they're out there. And I think that the reason they haven't gone all Armageddon on us is because they hold the same values we do. Otherwise, why wouldn't they just show up on our front door and say, "Take me to your leader"?
Yeah.
So hopefully we don't run into any of the Armageddon type.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, Jason, any last thoughts on this before we go to our story?
No, I think I'm ready to get to the story. What do you have?
Well, I thought you were going to have it.
Oh, I was supposed to have it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Remember, we talked about it for about 3 hours, and you said, "Hey, I will have the story next time."
Ooh. I did have a couple of hits to the head since then. I probably have forgotten, so I apologize.
Oh. Well, then what do you say we let the conductor do his thing? He's over there waving like he's, I don't know, some kind of madman, which he is anyway. And
Yes.
He's saying he's got it covered.
Well, if he's got it covered, then let's see what he's got.
All right. Take it away, Mr. Conductor.
Thanks, guys. Let me ask you a question. What type of story do you think that the undead most fear?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe stories about lollipops and unicorns? You know, happy ones?
Shallow human. We fear very few things, but it's the end of the world that scares us the most. After all, if you guys are gone, who are we left to terrorize? Also, if the world is destroyed, well, I'll just let you think about that for a minute.
And your point is?
Today's story is one that rocks my very foundation. What if a comet thought to be benevolent becomes malevolent? A real planet killer. How would you feel about that?
Now that's a horrible thought, Conductor. I think I would not think about it.
Too late. Our story comes from a series that ran on the Mutual Broadcasting System. The Mysterious Traveler was written and directed by Robert Arthur and David Kogan. Great people. It ran from 1943 to 1952. The lovely sound of a distant locomotive heralded the arrival of the malevolent narrator, portrayed by Morris Tarplin, a man after my own hopes and dreams. In fact, you may think that this show was inspired by him. I'll just let you ponder that one a bit. The tale I've picked is called Fire in the Sky. As you listen, try to remember what would happen to the poor undead. Fire in the Sky first aired on August 28th, 1951.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Mysterious Traveler, written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Kogan. and starring three of radio's foremost actors, Burt Morrison, Joyce Gordon, and Leon Jennings, in Fire in the Sky. This is the Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can, as we join two young people who find themselves in the strangest situation human beings ever encountered. It's the story I call Fire in the Sky. It's late evening, and a convertible with the top down is driving along a lonely road in the Shenandoah Valley. The driver is young, in his 20s. So is the girl beside him. They're Mr. and Mrs. Nicholas Ramsey of New York City, married less than 24 hours and honeymooning. Dick Ramsey is driving slowly, for both he and Sally are watching the great golden disk which is rising in the sky above the hills to the west. Not the moon, but the new comet, which the whole world is talking about with excited interest and some apprehension.
Nick, it's so bright. It's grown much brighter since last night.
Yes, I know. Seems to be about half as big as the moon now. You can almost see it grow.
It looks as if it were coming right at us.
Well, that's just an illusion. It'll pass about 15 million miles away, the radio said.
15 million. It sounds like a lot. But I wish it were more.
Oh, they said it wouldn't do much damage even if it hit us head on. Comets are mostly gas, you know.
Oh, it certainly looks solid. It is beautiful, though, isn't it? I'm glad we decided to drive tonight so we could watch it.
Let's turn on the news and see what the radio says about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll try Washington. Danny Dunn has been giving a blow-by-blow account of its approach.
So everybody is aware, this is your feature reporter, Danny Dunn, speaking from Washington. Well, the big news tonight is still Comet X, as it's been nicknamed. Tonight it seems it's going to pass little old Earth a bit closer than was thought. Maybe inside 10 million miles. But it's nothing to worry about, can't hurt us any. A comet is just gas, you know. Like some congressman here in Washington. Speaking of Washington, the president and his cabinet quietly left town today with their families. We're told they're going to a special government observatory where they can all see Comet X through telescopes. Well, that just shows you how interested everybody is. The rest of the world is standing outdoors tonight, keeping an eye on the sky. After all, this is a spectacle mankind sees only once in 1,000 years, and nobody wants to miss it. Well, folks, the government has asked me to pass along the following to you. Don't be alarmed if Comet X seems to be getting awfully close.
I guess there's nothing new. I'll
It's
turn
just
it on.
an optical illusion.
Nick, look up ahead. Somebody's signaling us with a flashlight.
Yeah, it looks like an old codger, one of the local natives, I guess.
Oh, do you think we ought to stop? Such a lonely road.
Oh, he probably just wants a lift. Anyway, he's so old he couldn't hurt us any. Hello, you want a lift?
Oh, evening, folks. Mighty glad you come along. I need some help back.
Help?
It's my partner. Rock slide fell on him, crushed his chest in. He's down in the mine. I need help to get him out.
You're a miner?
That's right, ma'am. Name's Jones. Jerry Jones. We got us a mine up this road about a quarter of a mile. Poor Sam hurt himself an hour ago. Been waiting ever since for somebody to come along.
Well, Sally, I guess it's up to us. We can't leave some poor fellow dying and not help.
But, Nick, are you sure?
I'm sure it's all right. Okay, hop in, Mr. Jones. We'll have your partner out just as quick as we can.
Here you are, folks. The little shack covers the mine shaft.
Now, come along, Sally.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry we haven't any first aid equipment here, Jones.
Oh, got some down below. This way, Mr. Ramsey. You have to go down on the lift.
Nick, look how bright it is. This comet seems to be growing bigger by the minute.
Here we are. Step inside, folks. I got the flashlight.
You've got a regular mine lift in here. Machinery and everything. What kind of mine is this?
It used to be a coal mine. Got abandoned. Me and Sam, we found a little vein of diamonds down in the coal.
Diamonds?
Now, wait a minute. There aren't any diamond mines in this country.
Sure there is. Got some down below. Prove it to you after we fix up, Sam. Please step on lift, Mr. Ramsey.
Nick, I think this is a trick.
So do I. A diamond mine. Listen, Jones. Coal and diamonds don't go together, even though they're both carbon. So we're not getting on that lift.
I'm afraid you'll have to, Mr. Ramsey. Believe me, I'll shoot if you try to get away.
Nick, a gun.
Now listen, put away that revolver. I don't know what kind of crazy scheme this is,
It's not crazy. I'm trying to save your life.
Save our lives?
You see that comet in the sky?
Yes.
They're calling it Comet X. They should be calling it Doomsday.
You are crazy.
That's enough talk. In 14 hours, this Earth and that comet are going to meet, and time is precious. Get on that lift, Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, or I'll shoot. Believe me, no harm will come to you if you do just as I say.
Well, I guess we'd better do it, Sally. There's no use in arguing with a madman who has a gun.
Oh, if you say so, Nick.
Now, that's better. Now, hold on tightly. Don't do anything foolish. If you don't know how to operate this lift, then we have a 1,000-foot drop below us.
We've been going down for so long now.
We're almost at the bottom, Mrs. Ramsey. Please don't be frightened. I'm doing this for your own good.
Say, who are you? You're not a native. You lost your hillbilly accent long ago.
No, I'm not. It was just a crude disguise. My name is Jeremiah Jones, formerly Professor Jones. We've reached bottom. The surface of the Earth is 1,000 feet above us. Now, Mr. Ramsey, if you and your wife try to attack me, you might succeed. It would be very foolish. You'll need me to get you out of here again.
Yes, I suppose that's right.
Very well. Please walk quietly ahead of me. These old mine shafts are quite level. I'll shine my flashlight ahead and you won't have any difficulty.
I suppose we have to humor you, but why are you doing this? What are you up to?
You won't believe me if I tell you, Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, that you two are the most important people in the world tonight. So just walk ahead of me and we'll have the explanations later.
How much further is it? All these tunnels are winding and twisting. Nick, I'm completely lost.
Listen, Jones, if that's your name, come to your senses. Take us back to the surface and we'll forget this happened.
Careful, there's a door ahead of you.
Oh, yes.
Push it open and go in.
Well, shine your flashlight inside. We can't see a thing.
You'll find a light switch beside the door. Turn it on.
Nick, he's closed the door.
He's locking us in. Jones! Jones!
Please, Mr. Ramsey. Turn on the light and just wait calmly. I'll be back. I have to go to the surface now to see if I can rescue anyone else.
Jones! Jones! Oh, he's gone.
Nick, I'm frightened.
No, it'll be all right, Sally. I'm sure it will. There was a light switch, didn't there?
Yes.
Let's see if we can find it. It should be here beside the door. Or maybe it's higher. There, I've got it. Good Lord.
Nick, we're in a room. Completely furnished.
Yeah.
Chairs, tables, electric lights. There's even a radio.
Through those archways, I can see a kitchen, another room. But this place is like a furnished apartment.
1,000 feet underground, with walls of solid rock. And he's locked us in here. But why, Nick? Why?
I don't know, Sally. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Nick, what time is it? How long have we been down here?
2 a.m. We've been locked in here nearly 4 hours.
Nick, it's crazy. He's a madman. He must be.
I wonder. If he's mad, there's certainly a method in his madness.
But
look around you. There's furniture, a radio, a kitchen. There must be a generator someplace to supply these lights.
That's what I mean. Only a madman would fix up an old abandoned mine like this.
You know, I've just placed his name. Professor Jeremiah Jones.
Who is he?
He's an obscure astronomer who 10 years ago claimed to have discovered a comet no one else could see. And he dropped out of sight.
He seems to have an obsession about comets. He said Comet X should be called Doomsday.
Yes, I know. And I can't help wondering. Let's turn on that radio again. I have a hunch we'll be getting some news soon. Real news.
All right. Nick, how can a radio work way down here underground?
We must have a wire running above to the surface.
It's just music.
So let's leave it on. Maybe a bulletin.
Hello, everybody. This is your special reporter, Danny Dunn, back with a very important bulletin.
Nick.
I've just come from a meeting at the Smithsonian Institute, and I have some last-minute news about our mysterious visitor, Comet X.
He's leading up to something.
Now, folks, I don't want to alarm you. Panic won't help anybody. But it looks as if there may be some danger after all, and it's only common sense to be prepared for it.
Oh, Nick.
It seems Comet X is not holding to the course predicted for it. Its orbit now intersects the Earth's. In about 10 hours, the Earth will pass through the glowing heart of the comet.
Just as Professor
But
Jones
I
told us.
repeat, there is no cause for undue alarm. I have Mr. Andrew Weatherby, head of the Scientific Bureau, here at the microphone to tell you in person what to expect. Mr. Weatherby.
Nick, give me your hand. I'm frightened.
Yes, this is big if they've got Weatherby himself on the air.
Good evening, everyone. As you all know, a comet is composed largely of glowing gases. Now, just what effect these gases may have when the Earth passes through them, we do not know. But we anticipate they will be so tenuous they will hardly be noticeable. However, accompanying the comet is a core of tiny particles of rock and iron. Now, these, entering our atmosphere, will cause a spectacular display of shooting stars and may do some damage.
I'll bet.
Accordingly, the government is asking everyone to take the following precautions. Within the next 8 hours, take shelter, underground if possible. Otherwise, in cellars or in air-raid shelters. Take with you all the food and water you can manage. Take bedding, warm clothes, and be prepared to stay under shelter for at least 48 hours. Begin your preparations now. You will receive further instructions by radio. But above all, remain calm. Well, folks, this is Danny Dunn again. I'll be standing by all night long to bring you the latest. Keep tuned in, and don't worry. This will be a great story to tell your grandchildren. So long for now.
Nick, there's something they're not telling us. I'm sure of it. Do you suppose that the
Professor Jones back. Why, Professor.
Nick, he has 2 little children with him. Oh, one of them's just a baby. A little girl. Here, give it to me. Yeah, it's all right. You mustn't cry. Everything's all right.
Thank you. Now, if you, Mr. Ramsey, can take this little boy. Fortunately, he's still sleeping.
Just let me have him. I've got him. Now, you sit down. You're all in, and there's blood on your coat.
I'm afraid I've been shot.
Oh. I'll put the boy on the couch there. Yes, he's still sleeping soundly. Now, let me look at you. Let me get this coat off. Oh, I'm sorry, but it's got to come off. There. Uh-oh, you've lost a lot of blood.
Yes, I know it. Too much, I'm afraid.
You'll have to cut your shirt loose and fix a bandage. Sally, can you help me?
Oh, yes, baby's gone back to sleep. I'll put her down on the couch, too. There. Now, what shall I do, Nick?
I'm going to cut away the shirt. You pull it loose as I cut.
All right.
How did you get shot, Professor, and where did you get those children?
I went out to bring back more people to this shelter. There are no cars on the road. I went to a house a mile or so away. family and some visitors were out in the lawn watching the comet.
That's fine, Sally. Now give me something to wipe away the blood.
Oh, here, my scarf.
I knew if I tried to persuade them, they'd think I was crazy. I saw the children, a boy and a girl, asleep in the back room. I stole them. The baby woke up and cried. Somebody shot at me. I got away in the darkness.
Catch him, Nick.
I've got him. Help me ease him into this chair.
All right.
He's passed out from loss of blood. And here we are, stuck down in an old mine 1,000 feet underground with 2 children that he's taken from their families.
Mr. Ramsey.
Here I am. So you're awake. How are you feeling?
Very weak, I'm afraid. How are the children?
Oh, they're fine. Luckily, they're too young to be scared. Sally's out in the kitchen feeding them. Now, look here, Professor. It's one thing to lure us down here. It's another thing to steal 2 babies and
Please,
bring them.
Mr. Ramsey. Face the facts. Haven't I convinced you the entire world is in grave danger?
Danger? From what? A few chunks of stone that may be part of a comet? The radio last night admitted some damage might be done.
Some damage? What do the broadcasts say now?
I don't know. We haven't listened. After we got you into bed last night and took care of the children, Sally and I just fell asleep. Since we woke up, we've been so busy we haven't had a chance to listen.
Then turn on the radio now. Let's listen.
Of course. While you were gone, Andrew Weatherby urged everyone to take shelter for a few days.
So, everybody, this is Dan Dunn, sleepy, but still on the job. Well, I guess you won't find anything else on the radio this morning except the comet. It's so bright you can see it blazing away in the morning sky like a baby sun. It's about 4 hours before its path intersects ours.
4 hours?
I repeat again the official advice. Take shelter. Stay under cover for the next few days, but don't panic. Panic is more dangerous than the comet, believe me. I have to admit that a lot of people have unfortunately lost their heads the last few hours. Roads leading out of every city are clogged with refugees trying to get away. A good many people have been killed in the crush of crowds fleeing the city. We have reports of hundreds of auto accidents, some looting. Fires are burning unchecked in a number of places. Firemen are fleeing with the others. Washington this morning is a deserted city. So many people here have autos, you know. They were able to get away. All the air raid shelters are full. People in them are being very calm about it. Our news from other places is a bit scanty. Some lines are down. And I'll keep bringing you all the bulletins as they come in. Right now, I've got to get a little rest, so this is Dan Dunn, signing off temporarily, folks.
Well, are you convinced now, Mr. Ramsey?
Oh, people are losing their heads because they're scared. But that still doesn't say the comet is actually dangerous to the Earth.
Yes, I know. It wouldn't be if it was just an ordinary comet. But it isn't.
Well, what is it then?
Mr. Ramsey, the fiery head of Comet X is radioactive.
Radioactive?
It will envelop the world in a searing bath of atomic fire. In a dozen hours, civilization will have come to an end.
How's the professor, Nick?
Unconscious. His fever is high, and he's in a delirium. His pulse is very weak.
If only we could do something for him.
I've done what I could from the medicine chest. In his mind now, he's reliving the time 10 years ago when he first discovered Comet X and predicted that it was radioactive.
He predicted that?
Yes. Yes, we had quite a talk while you were busy with the 2 kids. He was an obscure professor of astronomy in a little college. He found a speck of light wandering around in the sky, identified it as a comet, analyzed it as being radioactive, and predicted that on its next visit it would strike the Earth.
And nobody believed him?
Well, the comet had vanished by then. Everybody thought he'd imagined it. And when he claimed it was radioactive and would destroy civilization, that was too much. He was fired, he had a breakdown, and was in an institution for years.
Oh, yes. Now I remember. I read something about it years ago. But the war was on,
and people had other things to think about. Everybody forgot Professor Jones and the comet. You see, the atomic bomb hadn't been developed then, so the idea of an atomic comet was considered plain crazy.
And now it's come true. Oh, Nick.
Yeah. Well, let's turn the radio on again, see if Danny Dunn's still broadcasting.
All right. What time is it?
Well, my watch says 8. Must be 8 at night. No way to be sure way down here underground.
Well, everybody, I don't guess there's much more I can say. We're broadcasting from the sub-basement of the building. There's about 6 of us locked in here. I don't know how much longer we can hold out. We haven't had any communication from outside Washington for the last hour. All wires are dead. Can't pick up any other radio broadcast. Washington's a dead city now. It's a weird sight. We have a television camera hooked up on the roof. Shows all of the big government buildings outlined by a ghostly, greenish light. Luminous gas surrounding the head of Comet X. We're right in the middle of the comet now. Be about 6 hours before it starts to withdraw. Anybody who can hear me, stay underground as long as you possibly can. Don't come out. The radioactivity will be deadly for a long time yet. Estimates vary. One guess was that our Earth will be poisoned for 20 years to come. In that case, our power seems to be failing. I guess we'll have to sign off now. So long, everybody.
She's gone up the air.
Nick, think of the whole world dead.
Now, wait a minute, darling. There's bound to be millions of people in safe places like we are. Caves, tunnels, old mines.
Yes, but did you hear what he said? The Earth may be poisoned by radioactivity for years.
Yes?
Ramsey.
Yes, Professor?
I'd like some water.
Of course.
I'll bring it. Here you are, Professor Jones.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
My head is clear, but I'm very weak. How long was I unconscious?
Almost 2 days.
2 days? And the comet
has come and gone.
And the world?
The radio's dead. We can't pick up anything.
The last report from Washington said it was a dead city.
If only they'd listened to me 10 years ago.
Now, you mustn't upset yourself, Professor. You did everything one man could.
Yes. When I was released from that institution last year, I set about fixing up this refuge. I bought the old mine. All by myself, I brought down furnishings, machinery, food. When I tried to get a few people to join me here, they thought I was insane again.
We understand, Professor.
In the end, I had to resort to desperate trickery, which got you here.
And we're very grateful for it, sir.
And I stole 2 children, the boy and the girl. Out of the whole world, you 4 are all I saved.
But there must be other people alive, somewhere.
Yes, of course, now. But by the time the surface of the Earth is livable again...
Will it really be 20 years?
Yes, Mrs. Ramsey. Between 15 and 20 years before the human race can once again live on the Earth's surface.
But in even 15 years, the people who are still alive now...
Exactly. Some will live. Human race is very tough. But they may be terribly changed. To reestablish civilization, we can only be sure of you 4.
Oh, no.
My dear, you mustn't be dismayed. I've planned carefully. There's everything you'll need for 20 years down in this cabin. Medicine, food, clothing, books, gasoline. You must not go above ground until it is absolutely safe. Then you will find the world changed. Animal life, plant life, it may have been altered greatly by the radioactivity, but it will be safe then.
Professor, you're too weak to talk.
No, I must talk now. haven't much more time.
Of course you have. You're going to get well, Professor. We need you.
I wish I could. But I won't. And now listen. Build for a better world. We seem to have gotten off the track somehow. Maybe nature simply decided to be done with us when she sent that comet. I don't know. But this is a chance to start over again and do better.
Professor Jones.
Nick, he's not...
I'm afraid he is. He's dead, darling.
We're left. You and me. Down here 1,000 feet underground. We have to live here. For 20 years or more. Oh, no, Nick, no.
Now, you can't give way, Sally. We've got too much to do. Listen.
It's baby. I've got to go to him.
That's what I mean. We have to take good care of those kids.
Yes, of course, Nick. Of course we do.
And we'll have to give them names. We could call them Adam and Eve, but let's not. Suppose we just call them Johnny and Susie.
Yes, Nick. All right, Susie. I'm coming. I'm coming.
The mysterious traveler again. I wonder if you'd help me check up on something. Would you just step outside and have a look at the sky? There's a speck of light up there, just to the right of the North Star. It wasn't there last night, and I was just wondering if you... Oh, but it couldn't be a comet. Of course not. And even if it is... And sure, we're in no danger. Of course, if you'd like to know the location of a nice, deep cave... Oh, you have to get off here. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll meet again. I take this same train every week at this same time.
Just heard The Mysterious Traveler with Maurice Tarplin in the title role. Others in our cast were Brett Morrison, Joyce Gordon, and Leon Janney. Original music played by Fred Mendelssohn. All characters in our story were fictional, and any resemblance to actual persons in name or otherwise was purely coincidental. Bill Taunton speaking. This program has come to you from New York. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Well, there you have it. Something to keep you warm at night. Very few things are as scary as a comet destroying all humanity. But in this case, it had a happy ending. After all, according to the professor, they will have some interesting creatures waiting for them in this brand new world. I think it has potential. Well, back to you guys, and try not to cry.
Well, he did have a story. How about that?
He did. But you know what? The guy's been around for, what, millennia. And so I would think he'd have something to say within that time frame. He could find something out there.
Well, he outdid himself. I still got a couple shivers running through my spine after that one. And I thank you, Mr. Conductor. You saved us. You had a story for us. And I personally am going to say thank you, sir.
Me too. Thank you. And hopefully we don't owe you anything.
Well, Jason, what do you say we get right to our favorite part of the show?
Oh, the email bag. Yes. Do
you have some, or are we without emails too?
Oh, you know I got some.
Okay. Let's go ahead then. What do you got for us? I'm excited.
Okay, our first email comes from John3022. He says, "Okay guys, stop ruining my sleep. Like I told you before, I sleep with dolls everywhere. Wifey is a collector, and they freak me out. I do have a question for Jason. How can a layman find out if a doll is haunted or possessed? I do not have any fancy tools or RT meters."
Well, first off, Jason, what's an RT meter? I
don't know what an RT meter is. I do know what a EMF meter is, and I do know what a I think the RT meter is like it's another form of like an EMF reader. The name of it just kind of slipped in my mind right now, but I believe that's what he's talking about.
Honestly, I thought maybe there was a meter I hadn't heard of. I've heard of using RF meters and EMF meters, but neither.
I think he was thinking about the RF meters. I think that's what he was trying to come up with.
You also replied to this one already on some place we call the horrorexpress.com.
What was that again?
That was the horrorexpress.com.
Yeah, that's what I thought you said. Yes, I did. I went out there and I actually got on there. I used my little fingers and I typed up a answer to this guy's question, and I think it works. But what's really cool about that is we can do this now for people.
Yeah, so they don't necessarily have to wait until the next Horror Express comes along. They can actually talk to us right there on the website. I think that's what you're saying, aren't you, Jason?
I did say that, yes. You read my mind.
All right, then. But can we go ahead and answer this question for this guy, even though you've already answered it?
I have already answered it, yes. I would be happy to tell everybody out there. There's really no way of finding out if it's haunted or not. Obviously, if he gets up and walks around or things happen around this doll, then there's probably something there. My best bet to you is to go out and get some cheap tools. You don't need to have these fancy things like you see on all these television shows. You can go get yourself a very simple recorder that maybe costs $12 and lay it next to this particular doll and see if you can hear anything coming out of it. There are some cheap meters that you can find. My EMF detector cost me, I think, about $35. That's all you really need. You don't need a lot of stuff. Honestly, I don't know if I'd go out there and buy it for one that you are trying to figure out if it's worth buying. You can kind of get an idea. I mean, if you see weird things in your house, a lot of things happening, you get a really weird feeling walking into a room, but you got to realize what could be a weird feeling just because you are freaked out by the dolls to compare to being freaked out because there's something in the room. You got to be able to distinguish that between those two. But I wouldn't go out and get these things just to sit by my dolls and see if they are haunted. But if you see something that's odd, then there's probably something there. It's like if there's smoke, there's got to be a spark somewhere. Same thing. So just kind of keep your eye on it, and if you really have some bad feelings or things start moving, then maybe invest maybe $35-40 in some of this equipment and have fun with it.
I guess my question would be and maybe it's more of a thought, is to move the dolls around from each other and see if you get different interactions as they move around. Maybe they don't like where they are and you put them somewhere else and they start to really react. Is that a good idea, or is that Ron's ravings?
No, you actually did that with one of your dolls, and it actually had some type of an impact. Well, your mother's doll. So, I mean, that is definitely something you can do. I mean, it kind of depends on what you want to do with it. What people sometimes do, and they work up their imagination, and they can scare themselves easier than... And I could see it with dolls. I could see why people would do that. But, like I said, just kind of be observant. And if you see something weird and you can't explain it, then maybe you got something. But I have a couple of haunted dolls too myself, and they don't do anything. I have them put in a special spot, and it's very peaceful. So just because it's haunted doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing either. It may not be a malicious spirit.
Do you think we'll ever be done with dolls?
Nope. We opened up Pandora's box, and that thing keeps on giving, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I think that's a great answer. I like it.
Well, you ready to do this next one?
I think so.
This is a Twitter thing that came to us, and it's by T-Self. That's TEE-self. He says, this show is too good. Why the long wait between each episode of the Horror Express?
Well, I think we covered that pretty good at the start of the show. I don't know how we can do any better than to say, been a rough time for both of us, me with sciatica and you bashing your head in. I really don't know how we could have done it any differently.
No. But you know what? I know that I've had some issues myself. I have MS, and then I had this concussion. But, you know, the funny thing is, I can't prove it, but I think the conductor may have done something to me.
Something to us?
Yes.
Oh, it wouldn't doubt me. I have no doubt on that whatsoever. He tried to trap me the other day. He said, hey, Ron, go in there and wave your arms around a lot. And I said, heck no.
Where was it?
Oh, it was in the nightmare car.
Oh.
I don't go in there.
No, don't go in there.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
Nothing good ever comes from that car.
No. Anyway, truth is, we're going to do the best you can, but you can always count on a podcast coming out every week. It may not always be a Horror Express, but there'll be something there.
And we also got to remember, too, there's a lot of research that goes into this stuff, and sometimes it's not something we can just blow out and have, content there. We want to make sure that it's as factual or as well researched as we could possibly find. So
or we wrote really good lies.
That's right.
Sorry, I don't mean that.
Don't tell anybody.
Shall we move on?
Yes. Okay, this one is from Milton from San Francisco, and he wants to know both Ron and Jason's views on lost time events, aliens or fantasy.
I want to say something about Milton. Milton sent in a story to Ron's Amazing Stories, and he actually had a lost time event, and his was pretty major. 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah, and if you want to hear his story, I don't want to tell it now, but if you want to hear his story, go back to Ron's Amazing Stories 316, and you can listen to Milton's story. So here's a guy that has a reason to ask this question. So I'm going to let you start. Well,
I don't know too much about this particular scenario. I mean, it's not really paranormal, but it kind of is. I like sci-fi, but it's never been my forte. But I have heard people going through it, and, it's very possible that something did happen. What I'd like to know is, did you happen to talk to family members or anything, or coworkers or anything that noticed you missing? Because I think that would really help the situation and find out if it really is real. Because if you're really missing, where did you go?
Well, in Milton's case, he said that not only did people notice that he was missing, he lost his girlfriend, lost his job, and even his own parents said he was crazy and he needed help. I guess I do have to tell you a little bit about it in order to make this make sense, but what happened to him was he and his girlfriend went to a movie in 1998. It happened to be Armageddon. And when they got through with the movie, he took his girlfriend home and was driving back, and a guy jumped out in front of his car. He slammed on his brakes, bashed his forehead, woke up 3 days later with his head bandaged and 30 miles from San Francisco. Now, amnesia? Okay, sure, why not?
Yeah, that's possible.
But he says that it was just nothing. Absolutely nothing remembers. And how did he get his head bandaged? Also, he was on the wrong side of the car when he woke up. He was on the passenger side. And so he doesn't have any explanation. He said he did go back to the site where the accident occurred, and there was nothing there. And even the car itself wasn't damaged. Outside, inwardly. Inside, there's a huge blood stain on his seat that he's never been able to get out. So there's some really oddness to this story. But there are ways that you can help people that have had lost times, and a lot of it has to do with regression. Going to a hypnotist or a specialized doctor that can help you work through your memories and help you recover those lost memories. He has not done that.
You know, that's very true about the doctor. You know, I forgot about that because it's just like a computer. You put something in the recycling bin, it's never really gone.
Right.
You just may have it there, right memory that you could just spit it out with, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's gone.
So let's answer Milton's questions really simply. Aliens or fantasy? At this point, I honestly can't say for sure. What I can say for sure is it sure does happen a lot. And there are so many cases out there that I lean towards, I'm not going to say aliens, but I lean towards it being an actual phenomenon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And there are things that can happen. You may have hit your head and you may have just had some amnesia, so it may not be an alien, may not be fantasy either. You just may not remember what happened to you throughout that point in time because of a traumatic experience. So, and sometimes, you know, really traumatic experiences, you can regress. So even though you saw something, you could completely regress that time frame and forget all about it, even though you weren't knocked out or anything like that. So I don't know. I think there's a couple of scenarios that could be there, but I do believe it does happen. I
Sure.
do know it.
Yeah, it does, I think. Mm-hmm. Okay, Jason, do we have more?
Yep, this one is Jason from the Heights. And it says, I grew up in Boston and we have our fair share of haunted locations. I am planning a trip to Disneyland this summer and would like to know if any hot spots I should visit while I'm there. I think Jason said he lives nearby. My name is Jason too. Well,
I never would have guessed that his name is Jason.
Me either. So, well, it depends. Disneyland is in California. Disney World is here in Florida. So I don't know too much about Disneyland. If he knows Disneyland, I'm going to give him a couple for both.
Okay.
If you know Disneyland, there is the hotel. I'm trying to remember. I think it's called the Roosevelt Hotel, where actually Marilyn Monroe's ghost is supposed to haunt. That's where she first came to California when she was trying to become an actress, and she stayed there. And they moved her mirror out into the hallway, and people say that they can find the ghost of Marilyn Monroe. And that's in downtown Los Angeles, which isn't too far from Anaheim. Also, when you're out there, there is a spot where the Black Dahlia was murdered. They say that you can feel her ghost there, too. If you are here in Orlando, there is a spiritualist camp not too far from Orlando. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But you can just look up Spiritualist Camp Orlando area, and it will take you there. And it is the coolest place. You can get all kinds of psychic readings. You can go into the woods. There's supposedly a lot of activity of hauntings that are happening out there, and it's a really cool location. I've been there myself. I just can't remember the name of it right now. Also, there are some really cool places. There's a place not too far from Orlando. I think it's in St. Mary is where it is. And what you do is there's this hill called Spook Hill. You could Google it. And what you do is you go to the bottom of this hill, put it in neutral, and your car rolls upwards up the hill, backwards, which is really cool. So those are couple of things that you can do while you're out there. It depends on how far you want to go. St. Augustine's not far from Orlando either, and it is extremely haunted. Pirates have raided that place. There were pirates that were and people that lived there that were maimed, and they had a hospital out there that did amputations. The amputations are buried underneath the street. Extremely haunted Native American and Christian graveyards. There is a restaurant, but it used to be a funeral parlor where they used to show everybody in the front window who died. That's haunted. So it depends on where you want to go. None of those places cost money if you go to St. Augustine, but it's fun. And it's a great place. It's one of the oldest cities in America, and it's where the Fountain of Youth is. So I would say if you wanted to take a really cool trip, and it's not too far away, it's maybe about an hour and a half, it's worth a trip. Trust me. I
just Googled Spook Hill, Florida, and guess what?
What?
It's actually there.
Yes, it is. Oh, and that's another place. If you want to, right across I-4, it dead ends into St. Augustine. The St. Augustine Lighthouse is extremely haunted. It's been featured on Taps, on Ghost Hunters, and they've actually caught visual video of a spirit running up and down the stairs. Really cool thing to do, and you can actually do ghost tours. You can also do ghost tours at St. Augustine, too, so I think that would be something fun to do, too.
All right. Let's move on.
Okay, this is from Twitter, Jonah Cuff. He says, guys, I love the show, and your stories are always great. My favorite podcast is about the black-eyed kids. I think they are aliens and not demons. What do you guys think about this?
I don't think they're aliens. I don't know what they are, but I'm pretty convinced they're not aliens. Their actions don't seem to have any purpose other than dark. And I see that as dynamic. I don't see that as aliens at all.
Mm-hmm. I don't either. I think it's more demonic myself.
I hope I never meet them. That's what if you want to know what I really think about it, I hope I never fall in with them. Every story I've ever heard has either not turned out well or has left me with unable to sleep that night.
Mm-hmm. That's right. All right, you want to go to the next one?
Unless you have something more to say about it.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'm pretty much in agreement with you on that one.
Okay.
All right. This guy writes, he goes, I love Jason's art and decided to try my hand at it. I attempted to copy the image of the girl coming out of the mirror. It went horribly wrong and I failed. Can you tell me how you did that photo, Micah?
Yeah, how did you do that photo?
Well, believe it or not, I don't like to give away my tricks because obviously that's something I've worked really hard with, and I did do a lot of research on that. But I will tell you, Photoshop was extremely important. It was not done the same day. It was not done in the same room. It used a little bit of trigonometry, and I had to recreate everything at a couple of different times with different lightings in order to make that work. It was quite complicated. The best thing that I can tell you with is keep trying. If you need some guidance, I would be happy to see what you've done and give you my opinion on it. I'm more than happy to do that. I would be doing you wrong if I told you how to do that.
Do you use a digital camera or do you go with film?
I've done both, but I tend to work more with digital because of the fact it's so expensive to work with film nowadays. But I try to use more digital stuff because it saves me a ton of money.
Okay.
All right, so we go to the next one. Hopefully he wasn't upset. I just think he would have a lot more fun exploring it because it will help him with so many other talents for the photography along the way if he doesn't learn it the easy way, because you learn other things along the way, if that makes sense.
Well, you did say that if he wanted to contact you personally, you would give him some tips. So.
Sure.
Okay.
Happy to do that. All right, so this was from Tony Spears, and he writes on Twitter, roses are red, violets are blue. Please do more Horror Express podcasts. That doesn't rhyme.
It's a terrible poem.
Yes.
I almost didn't send that one out to you, by the way.
Well, I give him an A for trying. But it was good. It's good. He tried. I like it, though.
Well, it's just another person that wants us to do more Horror Express, so we'll do our best.
Yep, we'll do our best.
All right.
All right, this one is from Mary Johnson, who writes on the website from Detroit, Michigan. I have a haunted doll I bought on eBay, and I'm not sure why I bought the thing, but it was an impulse purchase. When I received it, it came with a note with a whole bunch of warnings, things like keep behind glass, don't talk to it, if you get uncomfortable, we will take it back, and other stuff. I was excited, but since I've had the doll, nothing's happened. Nothing. I have tried everything, broken every rule, even bashed it a few times. I think this just is a dumb doll that I have overpaid for. What do you guys think?
Well, I went to eBay, and I was appalled by the number of pages and pages and pages of haunted dolls for sale, ranging from $15 to $825. It's crazy. They can't all be haunted. They just can't be.
No, I don't think they are all haunted either. However, they do look creepy.
Yeah.
But, again, it doesn't necessarily mean it's not haunted. It just may mean that it's not willing to show itself to you. You can't make spirits appear when you want them to appear. They may be appearing at nighttime. You're just not awake to see it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's moving to make it haunted. It may make other things in your house move, do some crazy things like poltergeists do. So, you may be trying to see if this doll is moving, but it may be doing something on the other side that you're not used to, or you're not looking for. So, kind of keep your eyes open. If you want to see if it's doing something when you're sleeping, put a camera up at nighttime. Let it run out of film, and then when it's done with the digital hard drive inside of it, see if you got anything. But make sure that it has infrared technology, because you don't want to put up regular regular lighting on it, because you won't see so many cool things about it. So those could be some things that you could try to do, or take like or you can even rent like one of those high spectrum cameras, a full spectrum camera, which takes every bit of light. So you'll see like a huge aura going on over everything, and you can kind of see the energy that comes off of it that way. So that could just be something you need to look for, but don't be disappointed if nothing's happening, because that doesn't necessarily mean it's not haunted.
Yeah, but I find it entertaining that she even bashed it a few times.
Yes, I do too.
Honestly, Jason, just looking at the sheer number of dolls, there were some that obviously had been manipulated to look scary. And then there are some there that they say that they can show you a pedigree of issues. I would be very, very cautious about buying a haunted doll on eBay, because I think it's real possible you got a piece of junk doll and overpaid for it.
You know what? They do that with art all the time. They do it with baseball cards all the time. Therefore, it is possible for that to happen very, very easily.
If you paid too much, I know that eBay will allow you to get your money back. Now that you've bashed it, I'm not so sure. But I know that if the claim doesn't come to your specifications, you can request your money back. I don't know how long it's been or anything. I think you probably got taken. That's just my gut.
It is more than likely that you did, yes. But again, things don't happen on women. Just because the doll's not doing anything does not mean it doesn't have some type of energy that's coming out around the house somewhere else. So people bring in antiques all the time, and things happen in other rooms.
Sure.
So, just keep that in mind as well. But if you're going to buy a doll like that, use your inner sense. When you look on eBay and you see the picture, if it gives you a weird feeling, there may be something to it. Buy the doll, not because it's haunted, but because you like the doll.
There.
And if it is haunted, then that's just an extra plus for you if you're actually looking for a haunted doll.
I agree with that. I think that makes the most sense. Just buying it because you wanted to have a haunted doll, I think you're just opening yourself up for being cheated. And And then the whole idea, keep it behind glass, don't talk to it. And if you get uncomfortable, he wrote, they'll take it back. Well, I think those are just all keywords to try to get you, to try to sell you on an idea. Those would be red flags to me, that somebody that's sending that along. And if they can say, here's the history of the doll, here's what I was able to find out about it, I'd lean more towards a doll like that.
And that's what my two dolls have. I know the story behind each doll.
If they don't have a story, then there's something wrong. Okay.
This last one is really cool. I like this. And this comes from the Horror Express website. I love the website, guys. You've done a fantastic job with it. I would love to read more of your stories and ideas. Maybe have a few more podcasts. I have a topic suggestion. This past weekend, I experienced orange orbs while I was out in the desert. They did this flyby of me while I was out in the prairies of eastern New Mexico. They were in a hurry and didn't hang around. By the time I got my phone out, they were long gone, but I swear I saw them. What do you think? Mandy Wilson of Houston, Texas.
I believe in orbs. I don't care. I know the photographic type, and I don't believe in those. But I believe that there is some sort of species out there, and I believe that it can be found in the desert regions of the United States that are orbs. I've seen far too many stories that have been documented. I believe in orbs.
But I also don't know if they're always spirits, but I do know that there is contained energy that can be released. And for some unknown reason, the desert does have that. Now, there may be some type of rock or some type of situation, natural phenomena underneath there that I don't know about, but it can do stuff like that. And I am more to believe this as an actual orb because of the fact that you saw it with your naked eye. You didn't see it with your camera, and only see it because you took a picture. So I do believe that these are natural orbs. Now, I don't know if they're spirits. I cannot prove that. But I do like the idea that you saw it with your own eyes, which is what an orb is. It should be, contained energy that is released. You can see energy. Anytime you see a spark, you go up and hit somebody with static electricity, you see a spark. That's no different with an orb. It's contained energy that's released. So I do believe in that. Now, sprites or nymphs or anything like that supposedly can self-illuminate. So I don't know if this could be something like that. I mean, there's so many things in this world that we don't know exist. It'd be fun to believe that it could be something like that.
Well, and why not an animal species?
Right.
I mean, maybe it's completely living. Actual creature that floats or flies somehow that we can't see. After all, bees aren't supposed to be able to fly.
Right. Their wings are so tiny and their bodies are so big.
But they fly.
Yeah, they do.
How do they do that? No one knows.
That's right.
I say that this one I stand behind. I have not experienced orbs myself, but I sure have read a lot of stories about people that swear that they're real. And the stories are all the same. The orbs are as curious about them as they are about the orbs.
That's right. I actually did see an actual orb, and I caught it on camera. And it was at a cemetery at nighttime. I was actually able to catch this thing without flash, and you can see it vaporizing the air in front of it and behind it like a trail. It was just pretty cool.
This is one that makes me go, I believe this one.
I do too.
Okay, what do we got next?
That is all we have.
Okay. Well, then, I think we're out of podcast.
Yes, we are.
Anyway, Jason, it is good to be back in the seat with you again. I have missed you greatly, and I'm glad that you are feeling better, and I'm glad that I am feeling better.
I am glad that you're feeling better too, and I know I'm working every day to get myself back to normal, and I know you're doing the same thing, and hopefully this year is going to be good for us, and we can maybe do a few more podcasts before the end of the year. A lot more.
Well, yeah, I certainly hope so. We will do the best we can. We'll schedule them as often as we can. We had planned this one to be in December. That's how whacked out it's been. So who could say when the next podcast will be? But I have a feeling it won't be 3 months.
No.
So with that, I say let's turn it over to the conductor one more time.
Let's do it.
Well, thanks, guys, for another great show. We, the horrible undead, have never been impressed by aliens. Just another potential blood donor with some scary good tech. Quite frankly, if you follow series like The Walking Dead or Z Nation, I think you would see that they wouldn't stand a chance. Just my opinion. That's it for the Horror Express this time. If you have any questions or comments for Jason, Ron, or myself, please go to the website thehorrorexpress.com and use the comments section or email us at ronsamazingstories@gmail.com. Tweeters should tweet us at RAS Podcast. Oh yes. Now the bad news. There's no way off this train. You're gonna have to jump. Good luck, and see you next time on the Horror Express.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.